Yes, 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 I know this is late, let's just get on with it. So The Punisher Season 2 is now on Netflix and stars Jon Bernthal as Frank Castle, who after coming across a young girl named Amy, gets entangled in with her story and everything going on with her. On the side, we also have the return of Billy Russo, who after his horrific accident at the end of the first series, is looking to come after everybody who did wrong, including the man himself, the Punisher. Now, as a huge fan of the Marvel Netflix universe, I was really excited to see The Punisher Season 2. I loved The Punisher Season 1, and I loved this actor. I loved Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. I think he's the perfect casting. I loved him in Daredevil, I loved him in his own series, and I was really excited to see what they would do with him in Season 2. And it's safe to say that I feel like this season is pretty much up to scratch with the first season. I really believe that. I feel like this is as good, and in some ways even better than Season 1. Let's start off with the cast though. We have Jon Bernthal, of course, as Frank Castle, and he's brilliant in this season. He's just, again, really empathetic in a way, but you can also really understand where he's coming from. But then when it comes down to it, when he really has to, you can see the anger and the pain and the torment behind the eyes. And I have to say, episode 11 in particular, no spoilers, but episode 11, there was a really fantastic scene in this where I was actually crying because of Jon Bernthal's performance. And like I say, I haven't really cried any of the Marvel Netflix shows before. This was the first time I have, so I have to give full credit to Jon Bernthal there. You know, he really got me welling up in this episode. Ben Barnes as Billy Russo, he serves as our main villain, Jigsaw. Obviously, this is a very interesting one. I'm kind of in two minds about Billy Russo in this season. I loved him in Season 1, but I feel like here in Season 2, I'm in two minds about it, because on the one hand, I think he was absolutely excellent in this season. You know, my problem is not with Ben Barnes as an actor. I think he did a great job. He was really good, you know, just at showing how insane Russo is, especially in this season, because in Season 1 he's very, very subdued, but in Season 2 he is wild, and you really get to see that. You get to see how insane he is in the head, and I really like that. I think Ben Barnes did an excellent job. And also what I really liked is that the storyline with him, because he had amnesia after everything that happened to him at the end of Season 1. He doesn't remember anything that happened. He doesn't remember himself as a villain. He remembers himself just as a guy in the army who served, and he remembers him and Frank as being, you know, like brothers, which they were. He doesn't remember that him and Frank got into those fights. All he remembers is these nightmares of this skull. Of course, the skull being the Punisher logo. So I really like what they did with him story-wise. However, I just found it strange because in Season 1 he was so intimidating as a villain because of how, like I said, subdued he was. And while I think Ben Barnes did a great job with the role, I found it hard to find him as investing as a villain because he was just shouting and screaming all the time, which just is nowhere near as interesting or as scary as just being really calm and collected, which is what he was in the first season. So I'm kind of in two minds about Billy Russo, but overall I really liked him in this season. We also have a new cast member played by Floriana Lima. I'm a big fan of Floriana Lima from Supergirl. I think she is excellent in the season. She's much better in this than she was in Supergirl. She wasn't bad in Supergirl, but she has a lot more to do in this, and her character is a lot more intriguing in this than she is in Supergirl. She has something going on, and when it's revealed what actually happened to her, I was like, damn, that was actually that's pretty insane. And her story being tied into Russo and how her story ends, I think is really, really interesting. So I think Floriana Lima was excellent in the season. Definitely one of the standouts for me. We also have Curtis. He gets a lot more to do in this season. It was nice to see that because Curtis was kind of underserved in the first season. So to see him actually step up here, actually working with Frank in the season, I thought was really cool. So I like seeing him. He gets a lot more to do and a lot more really awesome moments. He gets some action. So I really like Curtis in this season too. And then there's the new character of Amy, who Frank is palling around with all season. And you know, when this character was first introduced, I thought she was going to be really annoying and going to really bog down this season. But she was a great character. She was really good, a great foil for Frank, and somebody who you really saw that Frank really cared for. He almost saw her as, you know, as his daughter, which is obviously very thematic given what the Punisher is all about. So I feel like seeing, you know, Frank really starting to build a connection with a younger face in this season was a really nice way of showing how far Frank has come and also how much he really does care. The action in this season is absolutely brilliant, as always. I mean, Marvel Netflix is very good at doing action for their shows. Obviously, Daredevil and The Punisher kind of being the most action-heavy of them all. I just loved all the action. It was fast, it was violent, it was brutal. You really saw all the shots, you saw all the blood splatter. Like, this is very much a hard R, 18-rated, Punisher show, and that is exactly what you get here. I loved all the action sequences. They were really fun, they were inventive, they were awesome to watch, they were exciting. I was on the edge of my seat, they were riveting. Just all the action that you saw in Season 1, and also, even back in Daredevil, you get that level of action in Season 2 of The Punisher. And overall, like I say, I thought the story was really good. I like the fact that he was basically starting off this season trying to just live a normal life, just trying to, lay low. And, in the first couple episodes, you feel really bad for him, because something happens to him in the first couple episodes where you really feel like, this guy just has no luck. And well, on top of that, the way he gets just wrapped in and tied into this story with Amy, which then leads into Russo coming back and things like that. It's a really interesting story and something that you're just along for the ride with, just because purely of Jon Bernthal's performance and because of this character. You're not really bothered about where the story is going to go. You're just willing to go along with the ride just because of these characters, and luckily enough, the story is pretty good alongside. My only real negative with this season is the character of John Pilgrim. Again, I'm not going to go too heavily into this character, but I just feel like he was a bit odd. He kind of felt a bit out of place. Like, every time he showed up, it felt like the episodes were really starting to slow down when we had to deal with him, because he kind of felt like just this weird third party where he wasn't part of the main story, he wasn't part of the stuff going on with Russo, so you just kind of felt like this weird third party. And while he does become very relevant at the end, and I was actually quite happy with how they ended him off, I just still found him to be a bit of a weird placement in this season, and I think the season probably could have done without him. And I will briefly talk about the ending, again, with no real spoilers, but what I really liked about the ending of this season, especially because now we know that this is the final season of The Punisher. The Punisher has been officially cancelled by Netflix. We do know that this is the final season. I like where the season ends, just like Daredevil Season 3, if you saw my review for that. I said I was very happy with the ending because of how conclusively it ends. Punisher Season 2 does the same thing. It ends very conclusively. You don't have any real cliffhangers at all. Like, even Daredevil had one cliffhanger. This has literally none. There's literally nothing really loose tying, really. There are a couple of things maybe you could point out, but for the most part, everything is wrapped up and tied up in a nice little bow, and you don't need another season of The Punisher, really. Would I like to have another season? Absolutely. But is it necessary? No. I think this is a good 2-season show if you want to go with that. And I think overall, although I'm really sad to see the death of Marvel Netflix, because like I say, I love these shows, in regards to Daredevil and The Punisher, at least they ended well, unlike Luke Cage and Iron Fist, which definitely could have done with another season. Overall, though, I had a blast with The Punisher Season 2. Although it took me quite a while to get through it, I really enjoyed the ride. But this was the same with Season 1. It took me a long time to finish Season 1 as well, just because it's quite a heavy show as well. It's quite a, you kind of watch one episode and you're kind of like, okay, I can take a breather. But I feel like for the most part, Season 2 is a very entertaining watch. And like I say, I think this season is as good and in some ways even better than the first season. So if you're a big fan of Marvel Netflix, if you like Jon Bernthal as The Punisher, you definitely need to check out Season 2. So have you guys seen The Punisher Season 2? If you have, make sure you let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a conversation about this season in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews and TV reviews from me, be sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again in my next video.